What about Bitcoin? I just got done talking about Bitcoin is still strong as ever. You got Morgan Stanley saying that there are signs that are pointing to an imminent bullish turn in the crypto market. I think that BlackRock, the fake out, kind of jump-started things a little bit because now people know what it's really going to be like when we get a spot Bitcoin ETF approval, right? So that's why, even though that news from Cointelegraph was fake, we still bumped upwards. And we'll go build up from here, right? Here's an interesting chart showing the price of Bitcoin at the last 3 halving events. You had the first one being at $12, which was amazing if you think about it, because beforehand it was pennies, right? The second one going from 12 to 648. And then the one after that, just as impressive, 648 to 8,572. What will Bitcoin be at this halving cycle? See, if you're looking at it this way, it's so impressive, right? It's very, very impressive. Even going from the second to the third halving was more than 10x. Even if this time around we get a 5x, even a 5x would put Bitcoin at 50,000 this halving event. There has to be diminishing returns, obviously, because it can't be going up 10x every single time. But imagine that. I mean, if you're looking at it this way, right, people are still kind of depressed about Bitcoin at 28,000. I'm like, if you think about it, by the time we get a halving event, Bitcoin could be at 40,000, 50,000, right? Probably not an all-time high, although some people think it can be. But just think about it. Even at a 5x from the last halving event, we're still at like $50,000 or 60,000. That would be very, very impressive already. But maybe some of these guys are right. Some people have called it 130,000 by the halving event. We will see. We will see. But, that just shows you this is how Bitcoin moves, despite the macro stuff. The macro stuff and micro stuff. The events that cause short-term volatility, it doesn't really matter on the grand scheme of things. Bitcoin just continues to move forward and get bigger and stronger. You know why? Because long-term investors, the hodlers, the people that continue to accumulate DCA, they continue to do so because they don't care. Long-term investors now hold a new record 76.2% of all Bitcoin. This is the highest ever recorded in Bitcoin's history, even higher than the peak of 2015, 2016. Okay? Think about that. There's a lot more Bitcoin in existence right now versus before, yet you have long-term holders holding more of the supply now than ever before in Bitcoin's history. That's why Bitcoin continues to go up, continues to get stronger every single cycle, and never, ever changes. That's why. Supply keeps diminishing, demand keeps going up. It's really that simple. Forbes is predicting BlackRock and JP Morgan, they will drive the next bull run. I don't know about the JP Morgan part. BlackRock for sure because it's spot Bitcoin ETF. JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon is still very negative. So I don't know about why JP Morgan, but I do think that institutions will definitely play a big role in this cycle, in the cycle top. And that could be a good thing. We're talking about trillions upon trillions upon trillions coming into the space, right? Led by the likes of BlackRock and Fidelity and Vanguard and even Grayscale and others. Okay, here, this is a really interesting one. This is a November chart. Basically, this person equated like the same times every November throughout the cycles, basically show either like a midpoint, right, or a bottom or a top. So we're following what has happened before, right? We'll get to that midpoint like somewhere around the midpoint mark of maybe $60,000 by November of next year. And then we get to the top the November after that in 2025. Okay, but what about this November? It's kind of somewhere in the middle, right? So this is looking at the same day, basically November 28th, throughout all the years, and you could see. So basically, if we're following this, then we got between next month and a full year to get back up to about $60,000. So it's gonna be slow trending, right? And then afterwards, we form that parabolic top, which could be around $200,000, which is a full year after that, right? Quite interesting. We'll see if it happens this time, right? Here's another one showing downtrend, accumulation, and uptrend. That's where we are. That's where we are. History for Bitcoin may not repeat, but it tends to rhyme exactly the same way over and over and over and over and over again. Oh, and by the way, speaking of long-term holders holding 76.2% of the supply, right now those long-term holders are accumulating 50,000 Bitcoins, okay, per month. Long-term holders are accumulating 1.35 billion per month. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's why I'm saying supply is going down and demand is going up, okay? This is the reason. You can't make it more clear than that. You don't need a lot of lines. You don't need a lot of fancy fractals to tell you Bitcoin's going to go higher when so much of it is being bought and held. It just really comes down to that. It's just logic. You put two and two together, right? And a lot of people are noticing some of the things that have happened so far this year, even though we're not at the end of the year yet. We're getting pretty close. But man, some of the things that happened this year, Bitcoin, went through its very first recession, didn't crash to zero like some people thought, right? You have all-time high of supply being held, all-time high for hash rate, right? You have institutions coming in. You just have amazing fundamentals for Bitcoin. Never ever in a bear market or a down market. That just doesn't happen. But we're at like all-time highs for everything. And that's just incredible.